All right, so welcome back. So today is episode 1. I hope you guys all had a chance to take a look at the intro and also the Nursing Cafe menu. It'll give you kind of an idea of how we will flow. So today it's going to be a little bit about my journey into healthcare and into nursing. As I stated, I have been in healthcare for 27 years, and 17 of those I've been a nurse. So I could even remember and think back when I was graduating high school that was my goal. Okay, and I knew that. So one thing we're gonna always start out with, and I always say, is gonna be our protection message. And within nursing, we want, and in healthcare, we want to make sure that we protect each other. So with that being said, today's protection message is one of the things that I've noticed it's an increase in workplace violence in healthcare. So as nurses, we need to make sure that we are vigilant and paying attention to our surroundings. And I know a lot of us get busy. We're on our phone. We have our AirPods in. And I think we need to be more mindful of what's going on around us. So with that being said, I think we can also look into our organization and see if there are any type of classes or courses we can take to help improve communication, and also any classes that help with de-escalating patients and things like that. So with workplace violence, I see a lot of it comes from patients and families kind of taking things the wrong way. So I think we have to be mindful of our communication, both verbal and nonverbal communication. And I think a lot of times nonverbal communication is more powerful than verbal, because most people will look at us and see kind of our stance before that conversation even begins. And then also, we also want to pay attention to our tone when we're speaking to people. It is very important. So just with that, I just want each of us to be safe, as we go through our job each day. So to begin a little bit about me, like I said, in high school, I knew that I wanted to be a nurse, but I was also torn between nursing and cosmetology. So when it came down, final decision, it came down to, my mom said, well, maybe you ought to go off. So with that being said, I knew with that answer would be, I would go off and start nursing, because cosmetology was in a town close to me. So that would means I would stay at home and commute each day. So I did nursing. I went off to a junior college and I received my Associates of Arts degree, which it was just my basic courses to get me prepared for nursing. And then I went off to a 4-year degree. I must say I did not like it. It was big. I felt out of place. Then when it was time, I went and applied. Well, went to apply. I'm not going to say I applied. I went to apply. And the lady at the time, she told me, well, no one is getting in with less than a 3.0 right now. So I was like, okay, I got a 2.7, so that's not going to work. So she really didn't even want to talk to me after that. So I left with my head down, felt discouraged. And after that first semester, December came and I packed my stuff up and I went home. I was like, there's no sense for me being here, because what I'm here for, I can't even begin. So I looked into a college back in my hometown, and it was a smaller 4-year college. So I said, I'll give it a try. Maybe with it being smaller, I have a better chance of getting in. So that's exactly what I did. I started, I had to continue some more courses just to meet their requirements, to get started. But then after that, life happened, and I had my first son. Life happened again, and I had my second son. And like I say, I kind of felt like a failure, but you've heard me before say failure is kind of like, it fuels a fire in me that makes me keep going and don't want to quit. So I looked into their little faces and I knew I had to do something. So again, starting over, I applied to another 2-year college. Well, being that I already had an associate's degree, they was like, well, we can't give you any funding for that, so you would have to pay out of pocket since you have one associate's degree. So that was kind of another little barrier. But then I started in August of 2005, and we all know that Katrina hit, and that was another devastation. I can remember packing my kids up, going to a family member's house that before the storm hit. And I can remember leaving with the clothes on our back and maybe 3 or 4 pair of clothes, because we ran from hurricanes before, but we always came back the next day or the day after, and everything went back to normal. Well, this time it did not go back to normal. We pretty much had to start over. But one thing that kept going was school. And my mom felt, well, I'm here. The kid's babysitter even left with us. So that's one thing you can do. You can continue school. You can go to school. We're here to keep the kids. So I did. I kept going, and I fell level 1. I don't know how the verbiage is now for school, but when I went, it was considered 4 levels of nursing. And that first level, I failed. So there I am again, discouraged again. And so after that, I picked up the pieces. I reapplied. I started back in August of 2006. And which that year, I met my now husband. And between him and my mom and the kids and the rest of my family, they were the biggest support during this time. So I did complete school finally in 2008. I sat for the NCLEX. I failed that first time. I thought my whole world was over. I did. I was like, so once again, I had to pick up the pieces again, get myself going to get ready to study again, to take that test again. And, you know, it's a lot. It's a lot. It's a lot of studying. It's a lot of preparation, not still having to be a mom. Now, you know, I have a fiance. So, and then it was just a lot. But I kept going. Again, I sat about 2 months later, and I passed. So finally I passed. My first job was in a cardiac observation unit, and I learned so much because it was so slow paced. So I had that time to learn, and I was very appreciative of it. And then with any job, we experience low census. And with the low census, of course, I was like, I can't work 1 and 2 days a week and support, you know, my family. So I started looking for a job, and so I thought, oh, okay, let me try jail help. I think I went to 2 shifts, and I was like, no, ma'am, this is not for me. No. So that quickly was a no. And then I went into adolescent psych, and I worked night shift for a year. When I tell you I slept that whole year, I mean, literally, I worked and slept that whole year. But I found out that I did like psych. I did like working with adolescents. So that was very rewarding. And then after that, I started working in cardiology. And this is where I found my love for cardiology. And I worked with an awesome, awesome doctor. And he taught me so much in cardiac. I can't even explain it. And I carry it with me to this day. And I know there's been a lot of advancement since I've worked, you know, with that group. But I do know I learned a lot, and I bring all that with me to this day. And so after that, I was like, okay, I need to do something. I always felt like I needed to do something else. So I looked into travel nursing, and I started traveling. But with travel, I didn't go far. I just wanted to kind of test the waters. I did an assignment in Birmingham. I did, and I left, and I went to New Orleans for a year. I loved working there in New Orleans for a year. And Houma and Metairie. And then I decided, okay, of course, I'm looking for something else to do. And I was vacationing with a good friend of mine here in Dallas. And we would come visit. And we kind of fell in love with Dallas. So one day we just like up and say, okay, we're going to sell our house. And we're going to move to Dallas. And so that's what we did. We sold our house, and we moved to Dallas. And I did an assignment here in Dallas, an hour from, you know, where we were staying here in Fate, which is like 30 minutes northeast of Dallas. And I did an assignment, and then the current job that I'm in, I walked in on a job fair, and I was offered a job on the spot. In 2019, I started with my current organization, and I have been there since, and I've held several positions within this organization. And I am continuing to thrive. And I love, love, love where I am now. So that's kind of my journey into nursing. However, there's so much out there. And right now my track is leadership. So I'm currently in a leadership position. I am a clinical nurse manager. And not only do I get to help patients, I also get to help my nursing staff. You know, I am that sometimes voice of reason for them. I'm that mentor for them. You know, when they have issues going on, they can come to me. So I like helping my patients, and then I also like helping nursing. That's one of the things that I enjoy doing as a nurse. So, you know, with that, I just, again, here I am. I feel like I want to do something else. So now I said, you know what? Maybe I can reach more people. So I said, I'm going to create a podcast. And so I've been working on it for a little while and trying to get things going to see how things work and, you know, getting people take on it. One of the biggest things about me is crazy because I don't like to record and I don't like my voice. So I was like, how am I going to do this? So I just said, well, I'm just going to have to start talking and just do it. So that's kind of how I ended up here on the podcast. So that's my journey into healthcare and my journey into nursing. Oh, but before I came a nurse, I've left this out. Before I came a nurse, I was a patient care. No, I go all the way back. I'm sorry. I started at a hospital in Mississippi, and I was in housekeeping when I was going to school. And when I tell you this housekeeping, I think this was a blessing. They decided to contract out, and they gave us an option to stay with housekeeping or pursue other areas in the organization. So what I did was I took a 2-week course for a patient care associate, and then I became a patient care associate on a med-surg unit. Also, while going to school, I was a clinical tech in the emergency room. So, you know, I was pretty much a PCA clinical tech for 10 years before I even completed nursing school. I was 30 years old. So, you know, I say that to say you're never too old. You know, one of my other things is, even if you're older than that, you have to I look at the thing at it like, okay, I have about 10, 15 more years that I know I'm going to have to work. I don't want to do it, but I know I have to secure my retirement. So with that being said, I feel, you know, go back to school. You know, if you still have to work, go back to school, do what you want to do. And there's still some things that I want to do and go back to school for. So, you know, that'll help you finish those last years you have to work. You know, it'll increase your income. It'll also give you, you can put more into retirement. Do what you love, you know, and build on it. So that's kind of where I'm at right now. And then also, a part of the podcast that I want to share with you guys, and this is where you guys come in at, I want us to celebrate one another. So I want us to talk about our wins. You know, if we got a new job, you know, a new job title, if you got accepted into school, if you just started school, whatever it may be, you know, this year, the last year has been so rewarding for me. In 2024, I was offered my current position. Within that position, I have completed my master's degree with my focus in executive leadership. I've also won a Daisy Award in nursing ethics, yes. And then I also was nurse manager of the month. So, I mean, I had a very rewarding year, and it has really, really helped me focus on what I was doing. And then also the last thing, this is the community part of it. So wherever you're listening to me at, whether it's on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, I want you guys to leave me comments. I want you guys to leave me reviews. If you think I should do something better, let me know, because I want to grow, and I want to grow with you guys, okay? So I want you to leave me suggestions, questions, and this stuff I will go in and read, and I will ask or reply on the upcoming episodes. So this is where where the conversation begins. Okay, guys? All right.